the temperature change, you have mechanical loads. Because of this, you need to find out what are the support reactions, what are the nodal displacements, and what are the element stresses in the bar. So that is the problem. So we already solved one problem on statically indeterminate bar. So that problem and this problem is quite same. It is also statically indeterminate because both ends are fixed here. And it is subjected to two point forces. In addition to that, you have a thermal load. That is the only difference here. Other than that, everything is same. But what you are going to learn in this experiment or exercise is you will learn how you can apply different material properties, because here in this bar is made of three sections having three different materials. So he has mentioned that the first section is bronze, second one is aluminum, and third one is steel. So that means the bar is made of three different materials. And also not only that, in earlier problem we consider the uniform bar. That means the cross section is same throughout the length of the bar. Whereas in this particular problem, it is a stepped bar. That means all the three different, the bar is made of three steps having three different cross-sectional areas. So that's why here he has mentioned for each section, that is the first bronze section area is 2400 mm square. For aluminum it is 1200 mm square, and for steel portion it is going to be 600 mm square. So that means through this exercise, what is the additional thing you are going to learn from the first experiment is how you can apply different cross-sectional areas or different materials for the elements. That is the one thing. And in addition to that, you will learn how you can apply thermal load, that is temperature change, how we are going to apply. Apart from that, it is remaining part is going to be the same to the similar to the first experiment what we already discussed. So now, okay, so to model this one here in the software, see here, since it is a bar and also it is subjected to only point forces, so I can consider each segment of the bar as one element. So that is sufficient for me. Why? Because of these loads. So if I take either bronze section or aluminum section or steel section, the stress is constant within that element. So therefore I can consider, since the stress is constant for the each section, it is sufficient for us to consider one element for one section. That is, for bronze there is one section, one element. For entire aluminum section we will have one element. Similarly, for entire steel portion of the bar we will consider one element. So that means I need to consider only three elements in this. So for bronze one element, for aluminum one element, and for steel one element. Means so our entire FE model will consist of only three elements. Of course, four nodes. So for each element we have two nodes. So for first element I have two nodes, 1 and 2. Second element 2 and 3. Third element 3 and 4. So that means total we need to create 4 nodes and 3 elements in our FE model. Since the number of nodes and elements are very small here in this case, we'll go for direct approach. That means instead of creating the geometry and then converting the geometry into FE model, what we'll do is directly we'll create nodes and elements. So by creating the nodes and elements directly, we can create the FE model directly. Once you created the FE model, after that what you need to do is you need to apply the constraints, that is the support boundary conditions. So left side of the left end of the beam and right end of the beam is fixed as given. So fixed in the sense it is constrained in all degrees of freedom. So therefore you need to apply this end and this end fixed support. Then at this location, that is we are creating the nodes, we'll number the nodes as 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. At node 1 you have a force of P1 which is nothing but 60 kilonewtons. At node 3 there is another load which is P2 whose magnitude is 75 kilonewtons. And also here, if we'll take the positive x-axis always towards the rightward direction, but here the forces are acting in the leftward direction. So you need to consider these forces P1 and P2 as a negative force. Then coming to that thermal load or temperature load, here he has not given the initial temperature and final temperature. So just what he mentioned is there is a change of temperature of 80 degrees. So that means, so we don't bother about, or you don't bother about whatever may be the initial temperature or whatever may be the final temperature. So he has given the temperature change, but in the software we cannot give the temperature change. What we can give is what is the initial temperature, that we will call it as a reference temperature. What is the reference temperature of this bar? Then after that reference temperature, so what is the temperature rise or what is the final temperature? So final temperature is nothing but the reference temperature plus delta T. You need to take like that. Suppose if I take reference temperature as 0, then my final temperature should be 0 plus delta T, which is going to be only 80. So we'll generally take the reference temperature as 0. If it doesn't mention anything about reference temperature, we'll take it as 0. Then whatever delta T is there, that delta T is going to be your final temperature. Okay, so I'll apply the temperature. This temperature change is applied to all the elements. So it's not particular. It's not particular to only either particular node or particular element. So it is a body load. That means the entire temperature of the bar is raised to 80 degrees centigrade. So that means so entire bar is subjected to thermal load. So our temperature load. So that we'll call it as a body load. If it is subjected to entire volume, then we'll call it as a body load. So these P1 and P2, they are point forces. Sometimes we may have traction forces also, where the forces which are acting only over certain surfaces, we'll call it as a traction forces. But here in this particular problem, we have a body force or body load, what you can say, that is temperature load, and you have 2 point loads. Okay, so once you've done that, then the remaining process is simple. So you are applying the constraints and loads, then you need to solve it. Once you solve that, directly you'll get the support reactions and nodal displacement from the list results. And then element stresses. So like what we did in case of Fox experiment, we need to define here also element table to extract the element stresses. So that is the only thing we need to do it. So in the results category, what we need to do is, anyway, given the FE model. So in that FE model, we have 3 elements and 4 nodes, like I already mentioned. Then we are using the same element what we have used in the first experiment, that is link 180 only. So this link 180 is capable of handling that thermal load also. So therefore we'll use the same element. Suppose if this element is not capable of carrying that thermal load, only it is capable of carrying only mechanical loads, then I need to change the element tag. But this link 180 element is capable of carrying both axial loads and thermal loads also. So if you have a question how I can know whether this element is capable of carrying those thermal loads or not, what you have to do is, again you need to refer the element description from the help document. So if you go through that, in the help document clearly mentioned that it is capable of body loads, it is capable of taking body loads, and the body loads may be either in the form of a thermal loads or it may be a gravity load also. Sometimes you may have a self weight. Suppose if the same bar is subjected to self weight, if I want to find out what are the stresses or what are the displacements, so in that case, you can use the same element also, because this one is capable of taking that body load, that is self weight also. Of course, here in our problem, we don't have any self weight here. We are that's why we are not talking about those things. So we have, in addition to this point loads, we have a thermal load. So now this element is capable of taking that thermal load. So we can use the same element to model this problem also. Then coming to the results, so like I mentioned, you need to calculate what are the support reactions. So what is the left support reaction? What is the right support action? If it is negative, means the reaction is acting in the leftward direction. If it is positive, means the reaction is acting in the rightward direction. Similarly, you need to calculate what is the nodal displacements, and then similarly we can compute the element stresses also. So since we are considering only 3 elements, so that's why I mentioned it as what is the stress in the bronze section. Throughout the section it is same, uniform. Similarly, throughout the aluminum section the stress is same. Throughout the steel it is also same. So, but coming to that analytical solution here, anyway, we'll solve this problem through the answers. So, analytical solution is, it is not going to be a big deal. Even though I am not given here, you can easily solve this problem. It comes under statically indeterminate bar problem. So, whenever there is a statically indeterminate bar problem is there, in addition to the equilibrium equations, you need to use compatibility equations also to solve for the remaining unknowns. So, here, we'll assume to solve the analytical solution, what we'll do is, let us take the reaction at this end is R1 and at this end is R2. So, we have 2 unknown reactions. So, then, one equilibrium equation, that is force equilibration equation, is nothing but your R1, let us say if I take R1 and R2 are acting, both are acting in the positive direction, then your R1 plus R2 should be equal to P1 plus P2. That is one equation. But still you have 2 unknowns, R1 and R2, 2 unknowns, only one equation in terms of R1 plus R2 equal to P1 plus P2. To get the additional equation, we'll use the compatibility equation. What is that compatibility? Since both ends of this bar is fixed, the total elongation of this bar is going to be 0. Even though there is some elongation for individual sections of the bar, but the total elongation is 0. So that means the delta L is 0 for this entire bar. So now if I draw the free body diagram for each and every section of this bar, then first what I will do is I will compute what is the elongation of each individual section, that is delta L1, delta L2 and delta L3. I will sum up those three, delta L1 plus delta L2 plus delta L3. It should be, I will equate it to 0. That is what my compatibility equation. Again, that equation is in terms of your unknown R1 and R2 only. So therefore, from the force equilibrium, I got one equation in terms of R1 and R2. From the compatibility equation, I got one more equation which is also in terms of R1 and R2. So now, two equations, two unknowns. I can easily solve for R1 and R2. So once I know the R1 and R2, then whatever free body diagrams you drawn earlier, from those free body diagrams, you can calculate what is the delta L for each segment, or from each free body diagram, you can find out what is delta L for bronze, aluminum, steel. Then you will get whatever delta L values, those values you should compare with the nodal displacements. So that is the analytical part for that. Similarly, already you are getting the R1 and R2 values. So R1 and R2 is nothing but your support reactions. You can write that, you can compare those values with respect to the results you got from the ANSYS. Then similarly, element stress. Once you got the force on each element from the free body diagram, your stress is nothing but load by area. So that also you will get straight away, you will get it. So anyway, you might have already studied all these things in your mechanics of materials or strength of material course, whatever it was. So that's why I'm not providing that solution. So if it is there, I can provide it, but as of now, ready-made solution is not available with me. And also I've taken this problem is from your FEM textbook, that Chandraputla exercise problem only. So that's why I don't have a ready-made solution in terms of mechanics of materials solution. It is not a difficult thing. So just now I explained to you how to solve this, then you can do it and you can record that analytical solution results also. Okay, so now coming to this, I already told you what is the procedure you need to follow, how you can model this one. So now to model that, where like I already mentioned, it is we'll use direct approach. That means instead of creating geometry and then converting the geometry into FE model, what we'll do is we'll create the nodes and then elements directly. So like I already told, there are 4 nodes and 3 elements. First I'll create the 4 nodes. So to create that 4 nodes, I'll take the reference coordinate system at the left end of the bar. So I'll place the coordinate system here. So then based on that, I can create the 4 nodes. So here first node is only located at this point only. So therefore its coordinate is 0. Second node is at this location, its coordinate is 800 because the length of this section is 800 mm. For second node coordinate, I'll take it as only we'll talk about x coordinates. Y and z are obviously 0 because it is a one-dimensional problem. So only there is a change in the x coordinate. So for first node it is 0, second node it is 800, for third node it is 800 plus 600, 1400. For fourth node it is going to be 800 plus 600 plus 400. So which is 1400. So but here one more important point what you need to remember is, so length dimensions are given in mm, area dimensions are also given in mm square, but Young's modulus is given in terms of GPa. So you need to convert that one is also into Newton per meter square, Newton per mm square. If I convert E into Newton per mm square, then whatever loads here, point loads P1 and P2, what I am applying is, so to apply this load, he has mentioned this one is in kilonewtons. If you take your E is in Newton per mm square, you have to take P1 and P2 also, you need to input as a newtons only, not instead of kilonewtons. So that means I need to enter 60 into E3, 60 into 10 cube. So I need to replace this kilonewton by Newton. That is the only thing we need to remember. So then alpha values, they are functions of degree centigrade. So here delta T also has given degree centigrade. So we'll assume that whatever units we are following, that those units are only degree centigrade. No need to apply any modification. Whatever alpha value has given for each of the 3 materials, you can do that also. Okay. So this is how. First I'll create 4 nodes with the respective coordinates 0, 1400, 0, 800, 1400 and 1800. I'll create, then I'll join node 1 to node 2, that is the first element which will represent the bronze section, node 2 to node 3, that is aluminum portion, and node 3 to node 4. So like that I'll create the 3 elements. But here important thing is, while creating the elements itself, you need to specify its properties, because The first portion is bronze and second portion is aluminum and third one is steel. Here both areas are changing as well as materials are changing. So before creating the element, I need to define what is its attributes. Attributes are nothing but material properties and cross-sectional details. So I need to define that. So that means before creating the elements, I need to have this data in my database. In the software, first I need to create a material properties and this cross-sectional areas for all the three things. So before creating the elements, I'll define these things. So here I have three materials, means I need to define three material models. So far in all the problems, we have taken only one material problem, one material model. So we created only one material there. So now in this particular problem, we have three materials. So we need to create three material models. Similarly, you have three different cross-sectional areas. So you need to define three sections for three different cross-sectional areas. So once you've done that, it is going to be quite similar. Remaining part of the solution is similar to your previous problem. Okay. So now I'll take you through the software and then we'll see how we can solve this problem in the software. It will take some time to open. Okay, so I'll change the name to thermal stress. Thermal stresses. A bar. Give the name like that. So my working directory. So that is our choice. You can set our working directory wherever you want, whether it is in D drive or whatever you want. So I want to create it in D drive. So I'll click run. So now for you, the software will open. Once it is done, so whatever now see, you can see whatever name I given there, that comes out of here. Now if I save it, so all the files will be saved under this job name, thermal stress in a bar. Okay, so preferences, generally we won't use this, or if you want you can do it. So this is the preference, is nothing but you are setting what type of analysis you are carrying out, whether you are carrying a structural analysis or thermal analysis or maybe electromagnetic corresponding to electrical, all these things. Suppose if I, since our problem is structural analysis, if I select structural, what is going to happen is it will retain the things only related to the structural analysis, because software will have different modules like it is shown here. You can solve the structural problem, you can solve the thermal problem, you can solve the electromagnetic problems, all those things like that. So if you don't apply this filter, what it will do is it will display all the features corresponding to all these problems. But searching the data required for our problem is going to be somewhat time consuming if all the things are available. Now what I am doing is I am filtering out all the things which are unnecessary for me. So suppose if I click here structural means, now onwards if I click OK, whatever the things which are related to the structural analysis, those are only displayed in the your graphical window or GUI. So the things which are related to thermal or magnetic, all these things are filtered out. So they are not visible, even though they are there in the software, but they are not visible to you, so that you can easily access the data which is corresponding to only structural analysis. So that is the only advantage of these preferences. Other than that, there is no influence of this one. It won't change your any solution accuracy or whatever it may be. Okay, right. So now we'll move on to preprocessor. That is the first stage. So we need to first define what is the element type we are going to use for the problem. So like I already mentioned, we are going to use the same element, which is link 180, what we used in case of first experiment. I'll select link 180. So here this link 180, so here I have three different materials, three different cross sections, but the nature of the element is same. That's why I'm selecting only one element type here. So only link 180. So I'm not selecting three link type, three elements for the element type. So I'm using only one element type that is suitable for all the three sections. So whereas the materials and cross sections are different, I need to use three different materials and three different cross sections. But element type I can use only one. Okay. Then I'll define material properties, because like I already mentioned, before creating the elements, you need to define what is the material models also. So then I'll go for material models. See, now you can see here material model number 1 is their default. but nothing is defined right now. So now to define that Young's modulus and thermal expansion coefficient, first I'll click on linear, elastic, isotropic, then it will ask for the Young's modulus. So now what is the Young's modulus? For the first portion of the bar, he has given Young's modulus, that is bronze. Young's modulus is 83 MPa. So 83 MPa means if I convert that one, 83 GPa, not MPa, 83 GPa is given. If I want to convert that one into MPa, then it is 1 MPa is 1 Newton per meter square. Therefore, 83 into 10 power 3 is going to be the MPa, its corresponding MPa value. So here I need to enter it as 83 E3. Then coming to the Poisson's ratio, since it is a one-dimensional problem, simply I can take the Poisson's ratio as 0. But he has not mentioned anything in the software about the Poisson's ratio value. I'll take it as 0. Then we'll go on to the next property value, that is alpha value. Also we need to define what is that alpha value as given. For first one, alpha, that is coefficient of thermal expansion. Alpha is 18.9 into 10 power minus 6 per degree centigrade. So I need to define that value also. So that alpha value is, I have here thermal expansion is there. I need to click that. In that I have to take secant coefficient. So like isotropic here, in case of thermal expansion, they will call it as secant. So in that again, you need to select isotropic. And then see here, you can see the reference temperature it is asking. So if I leave this one as a blank, indicating that the reference temperature is 0. Or else if I enter something 20 here, then the reference temperature is going to be 20. Or if I leave blank, 0. Or even if you enter as 0 also, it is only reference temperature is 0. Let us take it as 0. Then what is the alpha value for the first section? 18.9 into 10 power minus 6. So I need to enter that value here. 18 point alpha x, that is 18.9, 10 power minus 6, I can enter it as e minus 6. I can enter it as e minus 6. So now you can see under material number 1, you have two things, linear isotropic and thermal expansion. So if you want to verify what are the values for that, just click on that, whatever you define, that will be listed over here, 83,000 MPa. So that's what we define, so it's okay. Similarly, if you want to check what is the alpha value you define, so here our reference temperature is 0 and its value is 1.89 E minus 5. Okay, he has given it as 18.9 E minus 6. So we enter the same, but it is modified something like this, but both are same only. Okay, so this is how I can define the material model, first material model. Then to create the remaining two material models, what I need to do is I need to click here material, then I need to click on new model. So then automatically it will give the number. So define the material ID is 2. But if you satisfy with the 2, you keep the 2 itself, or else if you want to define the ID as something 4 or 6 or whatever you want, you can give your own ID also. But by sake of reference, I will take it as 2 only. Then I will click OK. Now you can see here another material model is added here. So earlier you have number 1, now 2 is added here. So if I add, for this also again I need to define what is Young's modulus, what is Poisson's ratio, and what is secant coefficient. So to do that, first you need to make sure that this should be highlighted in this blue color. Suppose if it is highlighted as something like this, so now you are defining for the model 1. If I highlighted this one, then I am defining for the model 2. So therefore, first I will define what is Young's modulus. So if I click that, Ex and Poisson's ratio, I need to input those two values. So for second portion, it is E is 70 GPa. So I need to enter 70 into E3 because I want to convert that one into MPa. 70 E3 I'll give it as. So then Poisson's ratio is 0. Then click OK. See now under material model this is getting added now. So it is opened. If you want you can minimize like this. If you want you can expand also. So now I have only, see you can check that also whatever you define here. I have only isotropic material properties, that is only Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. In addition to that I need to define this thermal coefficient also. Then again I'll click it here. So now I don't want to enter anything because default for reference temperature, if I left it blank, it will take it as 0. I will only enter what is the value of alpha. So in case of second portion, it is 23. If you look at, okay. If you look at here, it is 23 into 10 power minus 6. per degree centigrade. So I will enter that value here, 23 E minus 6. Then click OK. Okay, now you can see that two things are added here. So now the second material is over. Now I'll go for the third one. I'll create again, go for material and new model. Then default number, it is taking it as 3. Okay, I'll keep default value. Then click OK. Now third one is added. See, now you can see the difference between these two. Already we created 1 and 2. They are appearing like a folder symbol, means you already defined something for those material models. But here you don't, for material number 3, you don't have a folder here. That means you are not yet define any material properties for this model number 3. So if you define that, obviously this is also get turned into the folder. Okay, so we'll do that now. So again, I'll click isotropic properties. I need to define the Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio for the third section. For third section, it is made of steel whose Young's modulus is 200 GPa. So I'll give it as 200 MPa. I need to define that. So if I do that, what I'm going to get is 200 into E3. Obviously, the Poisson's ratio is 0 for this also. Okay. See, now the empty thing is converted into folder, but still it is in a open form. That means you open this material properties. If you minimize this, it will go to become like this. But we need to define one more property, that is alpha, coefficient of linear expansion. We'll do that also now. So for steel, it is 11.7 into 10 power minus 6. So I'll enter that value, 11.7 E minus 6. Reference temperature, I'll leave it blank, so that it will take it as 0. So now that is also getting added here. So I define the 3 material properties. So then it is over for me. So I have only 3 models. I define all the 3 models. Now I can close this. Once I close that, next we'll move on to the next thing. So that is, we need to define 3 sections. So because you have 3 different cross sections, so I need to go for 3 cross-sectional areas I need to define. So for that, I'll go for sections here. Then in that, since our element is link, I need to select link, then click add. So here, link ID, for first portion, I'll give it as ID as 1. Then click 1. Okay. If you want, you can give the name also here. I'll give it as bronze. Or else if you leave this one blank also, there is no issue. But only thing is, you need to make sure that you need to enter the link area. Here it is asking for the link area. You need to enter that link area. For first portion, it is 2400, I think. We'll see that. Okay, it is, area is for first bronze section, it is 2400 mm square. So I need to enter it as 2400. Okay, so now I enter the 24, then I click apply, because I need to create 2 more sections. So I can use apply as. Now I need to change this section ID from 1 to 2. That means I'm defining the next section. Click OK. Again, so I'll take it as aluminum. I'll give it as AL. And what is the area of that aluminum section? What he has given it as? Go to that one here. It is 1200. So I need to enter 1200 for this. 1200. Then again I'll click apply, because I need to define the third section. Here I need to change this one to 3 now. ID. Then I can give name for this is steel. Then whose area is, I think it is 600. The area for the, okay, it is given it as 600 mm square. So I need to enter 600 for the third section. I'll go here. I'll give 600.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, అందులో థర్డ్ ఆప్షన్ మాస్ ఆర్ కంట్రోల్ ఏదో ఉంది కదా సార్ సెక్షన్ కి యాడెడ్ మాస్ అని అది
Okay.
దేనికి సార్?
If you want to include the weight mass also, so that means so far whatever we are, see, we are doing only static analysis. We are not doing any dynamic analysis here. In case of dynamic analysis, maybe if you know vibrations, all these things. In case of vibrations, if you want to compute the natural frequency, you should know what is the stiffness and what is the mass. So then only it can calculate the natural frequency. Your formula for natural frequency is square root of k by m. So to get that mass or mass matrix for the element, you need to input what is the mass value. Here, suppose I am solving a bar problem. I am solving a model analysis to find the natural frequencies. Then in that case, I need to enter the mass here. How much mass is there for unit length? That is nothing but density only. So you can give it here or there. You can material in the even material properties also you can define. But since here we are solving only static analysis, So we are not considering any inertia force. If you want to include inertia force, then you can give the mass also. When you are going to include inertia force, if there are accelerations, then only you have an inertia force. As long as there is no accelerations, means our analysis is static analysis, no need to use any mass here. So even if we give it also, it doesn't matter. Whatever value you give it, it is not going to include in our solution also. So that's why we are not talking about this added mass. Okay, right. So now I define all the three material models and I define all the three sections. Now, before going in further step, what I can do is if I want to check whether I define all the things properly or not, you can go for list properties. First, I'll do all materials. See, material 1, material 2, and material 3. Like that, it will list. So you verify once. If you feel that they are okay, right, proper, then you will go for the next step. So I think all whatever we define, or else if you want to recall again, so material 1 is defined for which section, material 2 is defined for which section, and material 3 is defined for which section. If you want to know that, you can list it like this. So 3, by looking at these values, I can say this 3 is for steel, 2 is for aluminum, and 1 is for bronze. Like that, you can verify that. Similarly, you can list the whether you have defined all the cross-sectional areas properly or not. So you can list the section properties also. See, I can see my first section ID is 1, which is bronze, which value is 2400, then 1200, 600, aluminum, and steel for 600. So just once you verify that, so you make sure that all our whatever material properties and section data you define, you did them properly or not. Once you are confident with that, if you do everything properly, then we'll go for direct nodes and element creations. So we'll go for now creation of nodes. So to do that, you need to click on modeling, create, then click on nodes in active coordinate system. Like I already mentioned, first we'll take the origin of this coordinate system as our left support. That means its coordinates are going to be 0. Simply I'll click apply. I don't enter anything here because everything blank means all it will take it as 0. So except the node number. A node is created. You can see here. Maybe is it visible or not? I don't know. Anyway, it is created. I'll show you that in the through list also. For the second node, it is what is the length of the first portion, which is 800. So I need to enter 800. Then second node is created here. You can see that here. Then similarly, for third node, it is 800 plus 600, which is 1400. I'll click apply. Then third is created. Then fourth one is 1800. Okay, like this, I can create 4 nodes. Now, once I create the nodes, then using these nodes, I can create the elements. So below the nodes, you have element options all there. I'll go for elements. But before creating, like I already mentioned, you need to set what are its attributes. So that will call it as element attributes. If I click on this element attributes, you can see here what is the element type you are setting for that element, what is the material number. Of course, the real constant coordinate system are not applicable for our problem. Then section number you need to check. So element type is same, and no need to change element type because all the 3 elements are used for using only link 180 only. But only thing is material and the sections are different. So now I need to change while creating the elements. I need to change the material number as well as section number. See here, if I click on the scroll down box here, I define three material models. 1, 2, 3 are listing here. Similarly, if I click on the scroll down of this section number, I define 3: bronze, aluminum, steel. I need to select accordingly. So now, since first portion of our element, our bar is bronze, so I need to select here material number 1. I need to select the section number is 1 or bronze. Then click OK. Then I'll create the element using this auto numbering scheme. So auto number through nodes. Then I'll pick node 1 and node 2. Click OK. So then first element is created. So you may have a doubt. So here only line is showing whether I have given the applying the cross section or not. I'll tell you how you can verify that also. Then I want to create the next element, that is which is joining node 2, node 3. That is nothing but aluminum portion. So for that here I need to change the material to 2 because I define the properties for material number model 2 of aluminum. So I have to select here 2. Similarly, I need to change the section here, section to aluminum or 2. Then click OK. Once you set that, then you create your element through nodes. Then select node 2 and node 3. Click OK. Then that is created. Similarly, for third element, I need to change the material number to 3 and section also to 3. Then click OK. Again, use this option through nodes. You select node 3 and node 4. Okay, so now you created 3 elements. So having different properties. To check that, what you can do here is go for list elements, nodes and attributes. You can do like this. See now, first element, material type is 1. Then you need to see section is 1. Then it is connecting node 1 and node 2. Then similarly, element 2, material number is 2. Then section is also 2. It is connecting node 2 to node 3. Then element 3, it is having a material number 3 or material model number 3. Then type is okay. Anyway, these things are same only. So we need to look at only material and section. Section is 3. And which is connecting node 3 and node 4. Like this, you can verify that also. Even if you want to see graphically also, you can see like that. I'll go for this option style, and here there is an option called size and shape. Here default it is an off condition. So if I turn it on, so if I click OK, if I plot elements or multi-plots now, here you can see the cross section also here. See, you can see now this is a different steps. You can see that this is the smallest area, and then this is the second smallest, and this is the highest value, highest cross section area. You can see that also. Or if you want to check the medial properties also, whether you are given the properly or not, you go for here numbering. In that you need to select material numbers, click OK. So now it is showing 3 different material numbers. You can see the number also 1 here, 2 here and 3 here also. Of course, your element numbers and material numbers both are coinciding each other. So it is taking 1 1, 2 2, 3 3. It is showing like that. So like this also you can verify whether you define it properly or not. Okay, once you make sure that they are correct, then we'll move on to the next one. That is, we need to apply the loads and boundary conditions. If I don't want to see this view, then what I can do is I can go again this style and then shape and size. So I need to keep it off. So therefore you will see now only these lines only. That means the cross-section view, whatever you have cross-section view, that is suppressed. So now I need to apply the loads and boundary conditions. For that I'll go for loads, define loads, apply. First I'll apply the constraints, that is both ends are fixed. So that I can apply through displacement and nodes. I have only nodes. I don't have key points, areas or lines. So I have to use only this option, nodes. Then I'll select this node and this node. Left, then click OK. So since it is fixed, blindly I can select all degrees of freedom. No need to look at what are the degrees of freedom I need to apply. So then those are the constraints what we need to apply. Then we need to apply the 2 forces are there and a thermal load is there. So first I'll apply the force, then I'll select the nodes. So first I'll apply this node, which is at this node, what is the load? It is I think 60 kilonewtons. So at this point P1 is 60 kilonewtons. You need to apply that 60 kilonewtons, but remember you need to apply in newtons, not in kilonewtons. So I have to take label as Fx only because the force is acting x direction only. But I need to use negative sign because it is in the leftward direction. So I need to give it as 60 E3. Then I will use apply option because I want to create one more load. So I'll use apply. Then I'll select this node now. Then see, you can see here it is for putting the load in the leftward direction also because of you are applying a negative sign. If you use positive sign, it will show the arrow in this direction, which is wrong. Okay. Then click OK here. Now the load is minus 75,000. Minus 75 E3. Okay. So now you can see you have 2 point loads here. So once you have 2 point loads, then I'll go for thermal load. So to apply that one, so here you have option temperature is there. Click on the temperature. So now you have different options are there in this. But what I need to do is, since it is a body load can be applied as a uniform temperature. I need to click uniform temperature here. So whatever delta T is there, I need to apply that delta T to this. So delta T has given it as 80. I will apply it as 80. So now it is done. Everything is done now. Next, what you need to do is we need to go for the solution. So solution, then no need to change anything in the settings. So solutions are solver settings. So no need to modify anything. So we'll keep as it is default thing, whatever default things is there, we'll use those things only. I'll go for directly solution. Solve the current load step. It will solve it in a fraction of minute. It will solve. Then it is done. Then we'll go for general post processor. to see the results. So first we need to see what are the support reactions. For that you go for list results, then nodal solution, sorry, not nodal solution. You need to select reaction solution. In that, since all forces are in only x direction, I'll select only fx, so that it will list only nodal force in x direction. You can see that at node 1, the reaction is positive means it is acting in the rightward direction. At node 2, the reaction is negative means still it is acting in a leftward direction only. So one is positive, the other one is negative. But here, whatever load you are getting here, it is in newtons. But in the document I mentioned, you need to enter it in a kilonewtons. So you make sure that you need to convert that newtons into kilonewtons, and then you enter the value here. If it is positive, enter positive. If it is negative, enter as negative value. So, but here as a check, you can see that what is the total load summation of these two reactions. You can see whether it is satisfying the equilibrium equation or not. So your R1 plus R2 should be equal to P1 plus P2. So P1 plus P2 is 135 kilonewtons. Here you are getting your R1 plus R2 is also 135 kilonewtons. Means your answer is maybe initial stage it is correct, right? So you can verify like that. So that means here what you are going to get here is R1 is 246 kilonewtons and R4, that is a reaction at the right support, it is 111 kilonewtons you are going to get. So that is the first table. Once you got the reaction values, then we need to go for the nodal solution to identify what are the nodal displacements. So I'll click X component of displacement, I click OK. So now see at node 1 it is 0. At node 2 it is 0.22124 mm because I have defined the lengths are in mm. So software won't give you the units. So you need to specify the units. So here whatever length unit you have considered, that is going to be the unit for your displacement. So at node 2 it is 0.2214 and at node 3 it is again negative. That means the node is moving in the next leftward direction. So which is minus 0.4 into 10 power minus 2. Of course at node 4 it is 0 because we already constrained it. We fixed it. So obviously you have to get the 0 values. So you take these values and you record those values in the tabular form, whatever I have given that. So anyway, you can compare this with respect to your analytical solution also. So that is about how we can access the reaction solution and nodal solution. That is nodal displacement. Then the last one is you need to extract the element stresses also. For that we need to define the element table like what we did in case of experiment 1. Here also we'll do the same thing. Define the table, then click add. Then here I'll give you some label as something element stress, element str, indicates that it is element stresses. So then you need to use sequence number, then ls, then 1. This is what we did in case of experiment 1. Here also you need to do the same thing. So now it is added here. So once it is added and the status is current, then you can get the results. Or else if it is status is previous, then what you can do is simply click on update. It will turn to the current, then you will get the results. Okay, then I can list or I can plot the element table. So if I go for listing it, it will say, okay, so now these are going to be the stresses in the 3 elements. So in element 1, see here, again you won't get units here. You have to take your own units. So whatever Young's modulus units, so we are given it in MPa. Here also you will get the stress in MPa or MPR, Newton per mm square. Whatever you want, you can take it. In element 1, it is 102.54, that is bronze. In aluminum section, it is 155.08, and in steel, it is 185.17 MPa. So that's it. You need to note down this one, and then you need to fill the table, whatever table I have given here. So you can fill that here I have given element bronze, aluminum, and steel. So you can fill those things so that you will get the answers, all these things. Anyway, you have an analytical solution, then you find the percentage of error and compare it. I think you won't get any error more than less than, you will get less than 1% only in all the cases, because it is a simple problem only. You will get less than 1% your error, or sometimes it is 0 also in most of the cases. Okay, you check like that and you fill that, and that's it, I think. So this is how you can solve the problem using software. Or else if you want to plot also, you can plot. If you want to plot the results, how it is going to look like. So you go for contour plot, line element results. What is the label I define there? Element stress. So I need to select that. I can do that. See, now you can see from the plot, you can clearly see that for entire element 1, there is only one stress, that is red, which is corresponding to 102.542. And this is for the aluminum, which is also constant. Throughout the section, the stress is constant. Why is throughout the section the stress is constant? Because you are taking a linear element. So you have taken a two-node element whose interpolation functions are linear. So if the interpolation functions are linear, then stress is nothing but a gradient of your field variable, that is displacement, strain and stress. Both are constant throughout the element. If strain is constant, as per your Hooke's law, stress is proportional to your strain. So therefore, your stress is also constant. Since you are selected a constant strain element, then you are getting constant strain throughout. So strain is constant means for isotropic material even stress is also constant. That's why throughout the element you are getting the stress is constant. So if you want, you can take this image of this, or you can plot it, or else you can take that whatever say isometric view. If you use this option, you can select this, then click OK. Then okay, even for that also here you look like this multi plots. Okay, it is something like this. You can take this, and then if you plot a nodal solution, okay, I'll go for nodal solution. Like I said, you can list or you can plot. So if you want to enter into the table, you just use list option, or else if you want to go for the image, how the displacement is going to change. You can see that now how the bar is moving. Say blue color indicates 0. So this end and this end are, it is 0. So you can take any view, either isometric view or like this. Or else if you want to see how it is going to deform in the form of an animation, I can do that also. Go for animate deformed results. So if I click say yes, see now how it is going to deform. You can see that through animation also. If I make it fast, okay, it is okay, it is taking some time. So you can see, okay, now you can see that animation is going like this. So delay, okay, I need to move to this side, not that right. So that, okay, now you can see that the animation is somewhat faster when compared to the previous one. So see, you can clearly see that the bar is only elongating only within this portion. So this end and this end it is fixed. Relatively, this number and this number is not length of this portion, the steel portion is not changing much. That's why we are getting 0.22 into e minus 4 or something. You got the displacement value. So there is no change in this length of this element bar considerably. Only this portion, intermediate portion, this is changing considerably. You can see through this animation also. Okay, I think that's it from my side. If you have any query or any doubt, now you can ask. If you have chat box option, okay, if you don't have mic facility, then you can use chat box option also. So still, I think 10 more minutes are left for us. If you want, you can ask any doubt. Otherwise, if it is clear for you, then it's okay. You can leave, no issue also. Okay, before leaving, just respond to that attendance sheet, whatever I placed in the classroom. You just give your response to that sheet so that your attendance will be marked. I think it is there. You won't get that. Yeah, press this. Yeah, it is there. Already 65 people already given. Okay, very good. Here only 60 members are there in the class, but the attendance is going to be 65. Okay, if you have any no doubt now, then you can leave the class, no issue. So try to join in the next class. Okay, then I will stop the recording first.